Welcome. This is Power Trading Radio Live, fueled by Online Trading Academy. For more information, visit powertradingradio.com. Now, here's your host, Merlin Rothfeld.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Power Trading Radio. As you can see, this is John O'Donnell. Merlin's not going to be with us in the studio today. He had some personal business to take care of, but he can't get too far away from the studio, so we went out and searched diligently with all of our stormtroopers to find the man, the myth, the legend, Merlin. So he's going to join us today. Merlin, how are you doing?
I'm pretty darn good, John. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Are you feeling okay? You getting over that little croup that you had?
I'm great. I'm a little disappointed that I couldn't hide well enough from you. So you had to seek me out and find me, but I'm happy to be with you today.
Well, you know, Merlin, it's very, very difficult to get away from this place. For some of you who may be tuning in for the first time, you may not know Merlin's story. I think it's a very interesting story because we've had many other people come to Online Trading Academy, but Merlin joined our team, and I believe it was correct me if I'm wrong, Merlin, I believe it was in the summer of 1998. You had just gotten out of university, had a little bit of work in the financial services industry. But what was really the motivation for you to take up Online Trading Academy? Because as I recall, when we met, you had been discouraged from coming here by your professors.
It's kind of funny. Well, first, to go back to what I was doing in college, I was actually really interested in being a financial advisor. We had a guy come in to one of the clubs that I was running. I ran a financial management organization, basically meet who the bigwigs are in the industry to find out what we want to do for work. And it was kind of funny because this one guy walked in one day. He's a broker for Bank of America, and he's got his Prada shoes. He talks about his Ferrari and all the money he's got. And he goes, guys, look, I make so much friggin' money, and I barely have to do any work. And, of course, all of us, in our late teens, early 20s, are going, well, this sounds really good. And he proceeded to tell us what he did, and I just became extremely disenchanted with the whole, being a broker, because I thought there was some sense of altruism there, and you're helping people with their finances. And really, you're just a salesman trying to do whatever you can to make a sale. So I went and started working for a financial planning company, which I thought was my next step towards helping people achieve their dreams, including myself. And lo and behold, I found something similar, not quite as cutthroat as the brokerage side, but there was definitely a self-interested perspective that these financial planning firms had, and I got frustrated with it. A friend of mine sent me an article about this kid named Serge Millman out of the East Coast who, he spoke very poor English, played a lot of video games, and made $800,000 in 1 year after taxes. And I'm pretty sure that for all the viewers out there, only one of those really matters, and that's the $800,000 after taxes in 1 year. So I came down and checked out the school, and, I'm not the type to buy right away. I like to do my due diligence, and so I went back and did some research, told my professors about it, and all my professors told me, without exception, that Online Trading Academy was a scam, that day trading was a scam, and I should not even get into it, don't even bother with it. And I just felt like my professors weren't really in touch with current technology. I felt they were a little bit outdated. I think some of the viewers might feel the same thing with having gone back to school. You might feel that the programs or things that you're taught sometimes aren't as cutting edge, and I felt that this was. So I did not listen to my professor's advice. I actually took my family's advice and said, go for it. Take this opportunity, make the most of it. And I took the class June 1st of 1998 was my first Online Trading Academy class, and I guess the rest is history. Well,
Merlin, I remember that well. If you recall, I remember you coming down. I think you were in a VW Volkswagen bus, weren't you?
No. Come on. You think I'm a hippie. I was in a Toyota pickup truck.
I was in a Toyota pickup truck. Okay. And I remember you parking in a parking lot right behind our facility there at a shopping center across the street in the interest of UC Irvine. And then we hustled you onto a big cruise ship, a party boat, down in Newport Harbor. And, that was, what did you think of that experience?
It actually told me a lot about the open arms of Online Trading Academy. For the viewers, John didn't quite do that story justice. What happened was I pulled up this parking lot the night before my class, and I had no place to stay. I basically had a bed in the back of my pickup truck ready to take this class. And I ended up getting out of my truck, and there's John O'Donnell. TJ says my headset sucks, so I'm going to have to switch over here in just a second. But there's John O'Donnell and his wife walking towards me, and I go, John? He goes, Merlin? I said, yeah. He says, oh, are you coming on the cruise? I said, what cruise? I don't know anything about a cruise. He's like, oh, come with me. So we went on the cruise ship, and you're talking about the culture and how you're always helping out. I ended up taking this cruise that night. It was great. Got to meet a lot of people that I met the first time I came down. And by the end of the night, A.L. Shahar put me up in his company apartment and I had a place to stay. And yeah, it was nice to see how well I was taken care of just as a customer, and I'm probably even more well taken care of as an employee. So it's been a wonderful 20 plus years.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, Merlin. My story is a little bit different on how I found Online Trading Academy. I had just sold a business in the first quarter of 1998, right before I met you, and I had moved across the street into a condominium project from where our center was located, and my wife and I were walking by the front door, and on the door, if you recall, the shades were always drawn. There was no ambient light coming into this 10,000 square foot trading floor, but it said on the exterior, block trading. And my wife says to me, gee, what do you think they do in there? I said, well, Barbara, it's quite obvious. They trade blocks. And of course, she said, oh, come on, they can't be trading blocks. I said, look, why don't you go and get the coffee, get me my regular coffee. I'll be over there in 5 minutes. I'm going to stick my head in the door and see what they do here. And so I stuck my head in the door, and the receptionist, and when I first saw all those computer terminals and flashing lights, I really didn't know what they were doing. At my first impression was it was a gaming arcade, because gaming arcades were kind of new at that period of time, if you recall that era. But lo and behold, the first person I met was Kevin Green, and so I said, what do you guys do here? And he says, well, we're trading stocks. And I thought, well, this is terrific. It's right across the street from where I live. I can walk over here every day and trade stocks. So I went back, and the receptionist said, look, why don't you come back after the market closes, and the owner of the company is going to give a little seminar. And so he did, and that was, of course, A.L. Shahar. And I was just so impressed. That was a very, very impressive first impression when you walked in on that floor, wasn't it? I mean, what was going on in that experience?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because a lot of people look at what we do, and I think that hopefully the audio sounds better for the viewers out at home. So thank you. And by the way, TJ, you could have picked a better picture. I'm not wearing Halloween costumes on the show anymore. He keeps doing that one. There's a misconception, John, that a lot of people treat trading as gambling. And when you walked into that trading floor, I'll be honest, it felt like I was walking into Las Vegas. There was all that was missing was that ding 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 ching, and the cocktail waitresses in short skirts. I mean, there was tons of noise going on, and everyone's chattering, and people running around the floor, sometimes chaotically. There was an energy that, unfortunately, I don't think I'll ever be able to replicate again. I actually really, really enjoyed that environment. Right, like today, I'm sitting here trading at home today, and it's quiet. I can listen to my dog bark in the background and a squirrel outside. Otherwise, I miss the old trading floor days. It was pretty amazing.
Well, it was an incredible environment, and of course, in those days, we only had access to one asset class, and that was equities trading. The rules had changed, and people forget that Online Trading Academy, with its predecessor experiences, was really a pioneer in offering tools and professional-grade execution to the retail public that was not being made available by traditional Wall Street broker-dealers. And that was all because of the SOS legislation, the Small Order Execution System. So I think what a lot of people forget is we've got over 22 years experience of providing a forum, an education forum, and in those particular days, an execution forum with advanced software tools to participate on the market in a much leveler playing field. What we've migrated to today, as you know so well because you're the director of content development for much of these new learning experiences, today we're doing learning experiences both online, live, asynchronous, synchronous classroom experiences for stocks, options, equities. We're now getting and launching strategic investor class. Tell us a little bit about the strategic investor class that you've been working on, because from an online trading academy perspective, this is really a move into a new direction that has not historically been part of our DNA.
Yeah, it has not been historically part of our DNA, and I think this comes from the directive and direction of Dale Shahar, who's the president and CEO of Online Trading Academy, which is really, always pushing the envelope, but always making sure that there's an end goal in sight. And of course, the end goal for us would be student success and making sure that we cover all the bases there. And if you look back to when you signed me up as a student back in 1998, it was one thing and one thing only, was short-term equities trading, period. That's all it was. And I didn't know any better. I mean, my collegiate education was so ridiculously poor that I wouldn't have known these other asset classes anyway. So when I got to you, I was like, okay, well, this is great, short-term direct access trading. To me, that was a milestone breakthrough in my understanding of financial markets. But when you dig deeper and kind of peel the onion back, you realize that there's futures, that there's Forex, that there's commodities. I mean, there's all the options, there's all these different asset classes, which were not even popular back then. And I think the day trading revolution kind of opened the doors up to those different asset classes. And as I've progressed, those asset classes, I feel, have made me better because of a lot of the relationships and how all these things tie together. Now, that said, when we look at stocks, we look at futures, Forex, commodities, options, generally, when people see that, they're associating it with more active trading. And I think when you talk about strategic investor, it's saying, look, the vast majority of people, I think all these people out here right now, they have, to some extent, some retirement account, right? I've got 401ks and IRAs. I know, Brendan, you grew up in Canada. You probably have different account. I don't know what the account number structure is there, but you have some sort of retirement plan account. We all do. And the bizarre reality is, if I was to ask every single one of you exactly what are you holding in your retirement accounts, your 401k or your IRAs, most of you, the vast majority, are going to go, I have no idea. I open the account, I just pick some funds, and I put money in it. That's obviously the wrong way to be doing it. So it's saying that the vast majority of people around the world have money in the markets. They just don't know what it is. So let's build a class that is really kind of a very simple approach to managing a 401k or an IRA or being self-directed. And it applies, some of the basic, let's say, financial planning metrics, but then we tweak them and we modify those and become a little bit more structured. And then on top of that, we do things like the yield-powered market portfolio and a variety of different unique tools to accomplish a couple things. Number one is obviously increase that rate of return in a lower risk environment. And of course, we all know that if you take on more risk, you're hopefully going to be taking on more reward. And that's the same thing here. But by utilizing different asset classes, I think we can actually skew that a little bit, where we can take on a little bit more risk and get a lot more reward for it. So there are some asset classes and structured things we do in Strategic Investor which are designed to help you achieve your rate of return that you need. And I think more importantly, John, everyone should ask themselves the question, what rate of return do I need? What do I need to accomplish my goals in the financial markets? And that really is what Strategic Investor is about. It says, what do you want to do? How are you going to get there? What rate of return do you need? Now let's build a portfolio accordingly.
Yeah, and I think what's exciting about the Strategic Investor class, and by the way, the report that I have from multiple people that have taken that class, and most of them have taken all of our other classes, I'm repeatedly told that the Strategic Investor class is very well the most exciting, most useful class they've ever taken with Online Trading Academy. So, and I think it's because in the first 2 days of that class, we go through a series of exercises to define rate of return. And rate of return is not, I want to make 20% a year rate of return on my capital. The real rate of return one needs is a calculation that's custom to you, your time of life, your risk tolerance level, the amount of leverage you would like to apply or not apply at this particular chapter of your life. And it has to be custom to you. And it's not like I need to work longer. It's not like I need to get a pay raise to meet my retirement goals. The real question becomes with some basic assumptions, which is once your primary source of income goes away because of perhaps a health challenge or perhaps an age situation where you have either forced or voluntary retirement, your primary source of income is, at very least, is probably going to go away. So what rate of return do you really need? How big does that nest egg need to be to support you, given some assumptions on how long you're going to live? Because the living expenses are going to go on. I find it interesting.
And they're going to increase.
They very well may increase, especially if you have a bunch of grandchildren. I can testify to that. But the beauty of writing options, and I thought Russ Allen has done a miraculous job of adapting this class, and I'm told repeatedly it's among many of our mastermind members that have taken virtually all of our learning experiences. This strategic investor class is by far the most helpful because it really addresses that large corpus of their wealth that you're never going to put at risk day trading anyway. You're only going to use a small amount of your capital in that environment if you're an average American.
Yep. John, it's kind of funny. You mentioned something earlier I just want to go back to. You said that you heard that people say this is the best class that we have, and I was reflecting on this with a friend of mine a couple months ago as I was starting to rebuild the content with Russ Allen and Larry Jacobson and others, and I said, I look back at my high school experience, and we all had to take the same basic garbage, English 1A and chemistry and all these things, biology, physics, PE. And I look back, and if I was to say the most valuable class that I ever took in high school, can you take one guess, John, at what the most valuable class I took in 4 years of high school was?
Math.
Nope. No, math is every day around us. The most valuable class, it was a class that I accidentally got put into, and I was so irritated. I was so upset when they put me in this class. I was beside myself, right? Of course, there were two really lovely ladies who sat across from me, so that made it worthwhile. It was typing. I mean, look how indispensable typing is to me today. I mean, most of us, we have to be able to type with a keyboard. And to me, you look at these valuable classes, these things that change you. And Strategic Investor is one that is not, it doesn't have to be for somebody who wants to be active, right? Tilly Allison was great when she comes on the show and talks about this, which is really like, you don't have to sit there every week and manage your 401k. You don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it every month. You could do it annually if you want to, but you have to have a set of rules in place. And the reason for that is this. We talk about rate of return, and it's something that's very key in Strategic Investor and other areas of our program. But if you are focusing just on the assets to help you gain a greater return, that's great. Obviously, you want to optimize that and get the best rate of return that you can. But this is an argument that we've had on the program many times. I know some of the viewers remember this specifically. If you focus on just your rate of return, it's great. But that puts you into a buy and hold investor typically. And what we're approaching a market right now, John, where we are so extended that I just have to ask the retirees. If anybody listening right now is in there, let's just say you are 58 to 65. You're in that bracket. How long could you survive if your retirement got chopped in half in the next year? I mean, we saw it happen in 2008. We saw it happen in 2000. Granted, we are at astronomical levels, and your accounts look phenomenal right now, but a 50% haircut, what would you do? Strategic Investor, we put in specific step-by-step rules that say, if this happens, you convert your entire portfolio to cash. You get out of these assets because of this, and then there's specific triggers to get back in. So we're not saying that if the market sell off 50%, that you would miss all of it. But what if you missed the first 10%, and then it sold off, another 50% total, and you came back in as it started to give the signals per our indicators that it's time to buy back in. Instead of having your account drop, let's say 35 or 40%, you sidestep that. And that no longer decreases from your rate of return. So it's not just increasing my rate of return, it's making sure I protect myself so that nothing detracts from that rate of return. And anybody who's going to ride out this next market sell-off is going to get hit pretty bad with that decline in their rate of return in their long-term account. Absolutely.
The people that we serve, are the vast majority of the people that we seem to serve or have demand for our services are baby boomers. And the baby boomers, there's about 72 million of us coming through the pipeline, those of us born between 1946 and 1964. We are at a chapter of our life where we get, and as you reach, I'm going to say past age 45, maybe creeping up on age 50, you really start to feel mortality because you're at a chapter of your life where all of a sudden when you go back to your high school reunion, a couple of people aren't there that you had hoped would be there because something has happened to them. That being said, all of us at some point in time are going to have to live off our accumulated savings. That may be a voluntary choice or it may be an involuntary choice. And so the capital preservation element of what we do, to have a plan, to segregate your capital into buckets that have very specific goals and a plan for each bucket on what am I going to do to lean in the favor of capital preservation first, and then if and when, God forbid, my primary source of income disappears at a particular chapter of my life in this age group that we're talking about, what kind of rate of return do I need to, perhaps downsize my lifestyle a bit, if that's even appropriate, but to right-size my lifestyle. There's one other thing that I have found is that as we age a little bit in serving this boomer group, you get to a chapter of your life where the kids have left the nest, they're out on their own, building their own family, and boomers have to come to a conclusion at some point in this journey. Well, I want to move to a jurisdiction where I'm closer to the grandkids, I have good health care, and my cost of living it declines. That doesn't mean I cut my lifestyle choices in half. It just means I right-size my lifestyle with the existing capital that I've accumulated. And the worst thing that can happen is to go through one of those bear markets like we had between 2000 and 2002, 2007 into 2009. Those are devastating. And I don't think any of us want to go through a chapter like that again. But the capital preservation element of the Strategic Investor course is so critical because it really puts front and center in your face, Mr. Investor, and it empowers you and forces you to become responsible for your own financial affairs. And that is such a great service that we can offer the boomer population, don't you think?
I don't think it's just boomers, John. I think it's everybody. I mean, even if you're in your early investing career, it's something you have to think about along the way. And you're right, everybody has different rates of return. What's really surprising, the first time I sat down and calculated out my rate, because I never really, I knew that I had to achieve a rate of return and grow my account, but yeah, I had to go back and do some analysis. And finally, when I first took this, it was Proactive Investor back then. I sat in like a regular student, and I did all the exercises that students would do as kind of an evaluation, saying, okay, how does this apply to me? And, I had an idea in my head of what my rate of return that I needed was. So viewers out at home, think about what rate of return do you need to grow your capital now and achieve your financial dreams or your goals. And when I actually wrote down and calculated all the numbers based off of that stuff, I was surprised it was actually more than I expected, which was, I don't know if that's great, it made me feel pretty good. I just have to go through the lofty numbers. But we should all do it. We should all plan it. So, we've incorporated that straight into the course. Basically, it's a 5-day course. The first 2 days are really more of, let's focus just on a 401k, something that most people have. And that gives us limited options. So what we do is really understand how these choices work. You understand the pluses and minuses of mutual funds, how to scan and analyze everything. But it also sets up every person will leave there going, here's the rate of return that I need to accomplish this goal that I've stated. And it's easier to build a plan around it. Like, for example, one of my goals every year, my trading plan, is to go someplace I've never been to every year. Okay, great. Well, at least I have that written down, so I can now do things to help myself achieve that specific set goal. And if your goal is the rate of return, then you take the tools. We have some strategic asset allocation spreadsheets that we built out that you can customize yourself, map out that rate of return. But if you don't...
Hello, Merlin. You're cutting out, Merlin.
Now?
It's a little bit better now, but you cut out there for a second. Go ahead and repeat what you said.
Well, I was just saying, bottom line is with all of this, you need to have a goal in mind. And if that goal is a specific rate of return or achieve, become a master musician, great. Establish the goal and then put steps down on how to get to that end goal. For us in Strategic Investor, it's pretty simple. You have a strategic asset allocation spreadsheet that maps it all out for you. And you put in the numbers according to your personal breakdown and work to achieve those.
Well, I just want to compliment not only Russ Allen, but I want to also compliment Larry Jacobson. I want to compliment you.
Absolutely.
And all you guys working as a team to reconfigure this whole learning experience. This is the old proactive class, but we've now rebranded it and we've greatly enhanced the learning experience. It's called Strategic Investor. And I would encourage all of our listeners here today to contact your Online Trading Academy office. Go to one of our power trading workshops. You can simply click on the link there on our website, and there are multiple power trading workshops every week in our 48 centers spread all across the world in 7 countries. And go to one of our free power trading workshops. You will get some content there that discusses the depth of all of our curriculum. However, we will also add some refreshing educational content about what's important about the strategic investor and what resources we use, what asset classes we combine in a proprietary online trading academy fashion, which integrates the use of our core strategy of supply and demand as well. And of course, this whole execution you will able to execute on our Click platform when we release it with live trading in the very near future. Merlin, I want to thank you for being with us today. I know you've been a little bit under the weather, but take care, and we'll see you on Friday. Is that right?
I'll be back on Friday. Let me add one quick thing, John. You mentioned the content changes. For all the OTA grads, I want to let you in on a little bit of a secret here. Eyal Shahar has been finding ways to, how do we step up our game? How do we make this more engaging and give more feedback on demand type of education? And he's hired a whole team that's coming in, and this will be basically making the content where not only are you learning the content when you take the classes, but there's interactivity. There's feedback solution modules where you'll be, explain this candle, draw this candle. What does it mean? And it's not just you standing there listening to an instructor tell you about it. It's you getting hands-on feedback from exercises, quizzes, drills, and skill tests that are built into the courseware. So this is something we're also working at putting into Strategic Investor, because we don't just want people to come and take a class and say, "Oh, great, I took a class. Where's the reward for me?" You really got to get it, right? You have to understand it and apply it on a daily basis. So these new exercises, these new interactive modules and functionality, I'm super excited about it. It was way beyond my skill set when I first started. I just didn't understand how we would build these in, but they all brought in the right team, and we're going to start having some pretty amazing feedback loops within our content, and I'm looking forward to it. So I wanted to share that little bit because I'm sure students will be excited about it.
I'm glad you brought that up. And to your point, I've had the opportunity to participate in some of those exercises, and I've been very, very impressed. And the students, by the way, when these exercises are also done to supplement what takes place in our classroom experiences as well, this is, I am told by Steve Hanaho, that this has become very quickly the highlight and really enhanced not only what we do online, but also enhances what happens in the classroom learning experiences. I call it learning through immersion.
Sure, of course.
The best way all of us have is to learn through immersion. You don't learn how to swim by reading a book on swimming. Sooner or later, you got to get into the pool, and God help you, you better have a little bit of coaching as you first learn that skill.
Well, it's like a flight simulator too. You want to get your hands on it, and when the plane crashes in a simulator, you're okay, but at least you know what to do when it happens, and if the situation ever arises like that, then you can deal with it. And it's exciting to have this sort of interactivity, because as an instructor, as somebody who's done this for 20 plus years training people, I can give you all the content in the world, but sometimes I can't really tell if you're going to retain it and apply it. So now all of a sudden I can go back and say, all right, John, show me on this exercise here how you would send this order out to buy it, market 100 shares. I mean, that's an easy example, but there's a lot of different things we can incorporate in to make sure not only that students grasp a concept, but the application of that concept as well, which really takes all of our content in the stock class and futures and Forex and options and takes it to a whole nother level. So I'm
Cool.
As you can tell, I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, one of the greatest things, I think, service we don't talk too much about, Merlin, is that Online Trading Academy has a history of motivating people to take responsibility for their own financial affairs. And there are many people that never get there simply because they just can't embrace and motivate themselves, and they do need a push. They do need a coach. They do need a mentor. They need an organized path to get from point A to point B. You know, I'm reminded, kind of hate to bring this up, but I'm reminded of the loss of Kobe Bryant this last weekend. And as you watch all the testimonials to his relentlessness on why he has this Mamba mentality to overcome all kinds of challenges that brought him to the absolute pinnacle of the game, for every ounce of ability, dear God-given abilities, he was able to enhance through sheer hard work and motivation. And he always talked about his coaches. You know, he always talked about his mentors. He always talked about those that pushed him to the next level. And then I see people like other NBA All-Stars, considered some of the all-time greats of our industry, that talk about how Kobe was a model to them, and may he rest in peace. You know, but
he said something really good, John. He said, I saw a really great feature on him. Of course, right now it's everywhere, but there was one moment where he was in this interview and he goes, "No one's going to work harder than me." He goes, "If someone's out, you know, in the weight room working out, I'm out the court shooting. You know, I'm going to do whatever I can to be better than everybody else." And I think part of it is you have to have that mindset. I know a lot of people will take a class, they go, "Well, it didn't work for me, you know, didn't do this." Well, did you put in any effort? Did you really do the work? Did you really do what you were told? You know, this is a challenge that we face because, you know, it's like going to a restaurant and on Yelp. There's a restaurant down the street from my house, one of my favorites, and the food's just amazing. And I look on there, and there's some guy that just says, "Oh, worst food ever, was absolute garbage." And I look, you know, what he ate. It's like, you didn't even eat anything that was good, and you're probably just a complainer. These people, it happens occasionally where you get that type of thing. And, you know, if you're going to put in the effort, then put in the effort and dig deep, put in a lot of effort and use all the resources. Go to the XLTs, go to the masterminds, you know, take advantage of all the resources that AL and team have put in place to make sure that you get it and you succeed. If not, you know, it's going to be a struggle, but you got to put in the work. And Kobe didn't get there by accident, that's for darn sure.
I saw one announcer ask Kobe, said, are you disappointed that such and such hasn't become a great player? And he said, "No, I'm not disappointed he hasn't become a great player. I'm disappointed that he hasn't been able or willing to put in the work to become a great player." And nothing is given. And Merlin, thank you. Get well. We'll see you on Friday. And thanks for your help today.
Sounds great, John. Have a good one. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the man, the myth, the legend, Merlin Rothfeld. Here we are 20 years later. My claim to fame is I had the wonderful, rich opportunity to enroll Merlin in our school. And I'm so glad we did, because it's been, not only for him, but for me, it's been really a life transformational journey here at Online Trading Academy. This is also my 22nd year with the company, and I'm very, very proud to have an opportunity to contribute in a small way. Tomorrow, I'm going to have on as our guest Michael Young. As you know, he's been on the show multiple times, very popular on the show, multiple decades as a Chicago Board of Options Exchange trader, CME trader, and now an instructor here at Online Trading Academy. On Saturday, I'm going to be doing a workshop at our Westwood office. It starts at 9:30 a.m. I want to encourage you to come to the seminar. It's called our Power Trading Workshop. It's free of charge. We'll have some refreshments there. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the markets. We're going to talk about our core strategy. We're going to talk about some of the principles that we talked a little bit about today. So this is John O'Donnell. I've enjoyed being with you today, sitting in for Merlin. See you tomorrow. Peace. I'm out of here.
You're listening to Power Trading Radio Live. Watch the show live or on the archive at powertradingradio.com and YouTube. Or download the podcast from iTunes or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.